Hey guys, I'm here today next to my bookshelf. I wanted to talk about the books I have yet to read. Once again, I'm sorry about the mess. Up there, those are my pieces of clothing that I've put on Vinted and that are waiting to be sold. Pollen allergies, I'm sorry. You know what, I'm gonna separate the books in two categories: the ones that I've read a long time ago and that I've forgotten the content of, and the ones that I've not even opened. So let's begin with the ones I've already read and that I still have, because I've read other books but I've sold them or thrown them away or just given them to someone or to a charity. So the ones I've read, ooh, Snoopy fell down. Snoopy fell down. Okay. I read all the Hunger Games books. I only have the first two ones. The two first ones? First two ones? Which order is it? I don't know. I only have the first Hunger Games and the Catching Fire one. And I used to have the third one in like a sort of set, but it was in French, so I sold it on Vinted and got those two in English instead. Actually, that's my mother that found this book. It was in a charity store, something like that, and it's very cool looking because there's Jennifer Lawrence on the cover, and this one I bought brand new. Yeah, all of my books almost are in English because I want to make progress. Other books that I've read and that I probably need to read again because I've forgotten what to talk about. This one. Okay. Let's continue with those ones. The Island of Dr Moreau. It's a sort of book like the Frankenstein genre, the Frankenstein morale. It's about a guy, a shipwreck, and a guy who arrives on an island on which there are beasts that can talk, if I remember well. Like sort of beasts, and they are genetically transformed by a scientist who wants to challenge God's power. And things happen on the island. It's a great book. It's quite short, so if you're lazy, it's easy to go through. He's rescued by the vessel carrying a menagerie of savage animals. Then he meets the Dr Moreau, who does experiments. Yeah, it's beasts that are turned into men. Yeah, it's a nice book. I had to read it for my first year of uni. That's one of the only books I have in French. This is the Ovid's Metamorphosis. It's a book that I had to read in secondary school. I really liked it. Don't know if they are the full myths, the full stories, or if they are shortened, because it's a book meant for teenagers and kids, mostly teenagers, and that's one of the things that has made me want to dive into mythology a bit more. I'm not a connoisseur, but I'm at the surface, and I need to reread it again because I don't remember most of it. I do remember the Narcissus myth with Echo. Then, other books that I've read a long time ago. Those three books. They're all books that are related to my studies at uni. I've had to read this book. No, I had to study a couple of excerpts from the book of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's quite short. It's not that hard to read. It's one of the classics that talk about, I think it fits in the gothic genre, I might be wrong. It's about crimes and someone who has a double personality. Then I had to read The Great Gatsby for my second or third year. Don't remember. This one was one of the main studies of my literature courses. I don't remember which genre it's part of. This is a classic. This was adapted into movies that are quite famous, especially the one with DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. Point of view of the friends is quite fun and quite interesting to witness and to read through. And for this book, there are annotations, notes of from the previous person that had the book. So it's quite interesting to read what he or she picked on. It's a second-hand book, obviously, this one. The Magic Toy Shop is a book that I had to read. It was one of the main studies in my first year. I don't know what genre it is part of. It's by Angela Carter. I do remember that it's about a young girl a teenager or young adult. I think she's not even reached 18. And she has to go to the toy shop of a man from her family. And she meets another young man over there. It's quite fuzzy in my head, but weird things happen with the old man that owns the toy shop, and there's a sort of uncanny atmosphere in it, and it's all about the girl who discovers herself and her femininity and her sexuality a bit. Toy shop owner is quite of a weird dude. Actually, you know what? I've put in the very beginning the first Hunger Games in that category of books that I've read a long time ago and that I probably need to reread because I've forgotten the content of it. It's a mistake. I've read it more recently than the second one, so that's not urgent. I don't need to reread it very urgently. Let's move on to the second category, the other one, which is the biggest one, because as you might know, I've struggled reading in the past years. I've been very bad with it. So the books I have to read are those ones to begin with. So the Maze Runner, which is quite massive, it's very thick, very heavy, and the third Maze Runner, which is I don't know the title in English, and I've not even watched the movie, the third one, so it doesn't ring a bell to me. Yeah, I have to read those two. I watched the first and second movies, adaptations, when they were in the cinema, so that was a while ago. Then I need to read that's for my friend Manu. Those two books, which are in my mythology books category. This one is Ithaca. It's about Penelope, the wife of Odysseus. Yeah, there's a whole trend with those books, with those kind of covers. I've read the Medusa book though, but I gave it to Sophie Floyd before she tattooed me, as well as the perfume that I bought for her. I gave her the Medusa book. It was nice. It was different from what I usually read. It's a great book about feminism. It tackles strong topics and strong morals. It's actually quite of a different ending than the actual myth. In the original myth, the guy Perseus, I think, kills Medusa because he uses the shield to mirror her own reflection and to turn her into stone. And in the book, Medusa is like a young woman, and there's a whole story about a whole sad story about how she got the snake hair and how she got punished by the gods, and it was quite unfair. Yeah, there's a whole thing about that, and she meets Perseus. I read it very quickly. I was quite impressed. I read it in the beginning of the year, I think, or the end of the last year. And the second one I have to read in that category is Venus and Aphrodite, History of a Goddess. It's more of a, it's not fiction, it's the writer, the author, I'm dying. What? The author who has collected actual historical facts and things about how the myth evolved and how the figure of Venus evolved throughout the years and throughout the centuries. There are pictures in it as well, like reliefs and paintings and statues. Fahrenheit 451, I've read it already and I do remember it mostly, so that's not urgent to read it again. To Paradise, this is a book that I found in Italy in a library that sold English-speaking books, English versions. This is a book that was advised to me by the nice worker, the nice employee. I was talking about dystopian books. I was saying that I kind of like that genre, and he recommended me that book. It's quite of a massive book. I think it's the biggest book that I have, thickest one. There are like 3 periods of time. There's something dystopian in it. I have yet to discover what it is. It's a very tiny writing though. This is All the Lights We Cannot See. I do think it can be considered a dystopian book because it's about the Nazi regime, the Nazi invasion, and it's a fiction and it was adapted into a series for Netflix. And I bought that book because I've seen the trailer for the series, and in it there's Louis Hoffman, who played in Dark, and Dark is one of my favourite series. I know he's a good actor and I know he chooses great roles. Then we have Bioshock Rapture. It's adapted from, it's a sort of adaptation from the video games, if you know the Bioshock franchise. It's a great franchise, it's quite old. It's about an underwater society, and the society has collapsed. People have gone mad, and there's a whole thing in it, and the decor in those games are insane. Even though the graphics are quite old, they're still looking nice, and this whole storyline behind that is very interesting and very sad and revolting. And so this book, Rapture, is about that society before the fall down of it. This I'm not showing you because it's 1984. I've actually finished reading it recently. I think at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, I finished rereading that book. I had to read it for high school in French, and I had yet to read it in English. I'm gonna kneel down. So The Monk. This is a second-hand book, a gothic novel that I briefly studied in uni during my chapter about gothic novels. The excerpt really got my interest. It was a guy or a girl who was walking in a room, and the portrait that was on the wall seemed to follow her movements. The gaze of the portrait seemed to follow the movements. So I was curious and wanted to buy the whole book. It's the first horror novel in English literature, so that's quite of a milestone, that book. I didn't know what the book was about, but let me read the plot for you. So the respected monk, Ambrosio, is overwhelmed with desire for a young girl, and after swiftly abandoning his monastic vows, he begins a terrible descent into immorality and violence. His appalling fall from grace embraces blasphemy, black magic, torture, rape and murder, and places his very soul in jeopardy. I think that the portrait is of that monk, if I remember well, and he has made a pact with the devil or something like that. Yeah, it seems quite intense. It's very small and not very spaced. As you can see, the lines are very tight together. The bullet train book. So 5 killers board a bullet train from Tokyo. Satoshi, a teenage schoolboy and viciously cunning psychopath. Kimura, a father determined to exact his revenge. Nanao, the unluckiest assassin in the world. And Tangerine and Lemon, a deadly duo. I don't remember if the other characters are actually in the movie. There are many characters in the movie. Not sure that I remember all of them, but I do remember about Tangerine and Lemon because they were a very cool duo. The Blood of Elves. I bought it because I really like The Witcher 3 as a game on my computer. The Queen's Gambit because I've watched the Netflix series and I really liked it. I bought it because apparently the book goes further than the series, and unfortunately the series has been cancelled by Netflix, so I'm very sad about that. It was a very fun series to watch. It's not something that I thought would be up my alley, but it is, so I have to rewatch the series again, the first season, because there won't be another season. Beth is a very interesting character for sure. She can be quite despisable sometimes, but slay anyway. The writing is very tiny. Then a vintage one that my mom found. It's a Jane Eyre book, a very old one. It's a classic, so I wanted to read it once in my life, and because my mom had it for free, that's a bargain. Almost at the end. Oh, my knees hurt. Stephen King's Institute. I'm not really a Stephen King's fan because apparently they are weird things. Like for his book It, that got adapted into the movies. Apparently there's something with the kids that do an orgy or something, and it's very weird to me. I don't know what the symbolism of all of this is, and apparently it's something that is quite not recurrent, but it's something that Stephen King does. There are like sexual scenes that are quite weird. There might be one thing of this sort in here, I don't know. It's about a kid that has a gift. It is the latest in a long line of kids abducted and taken to a secret government facility hidden deep in the forest in Maine. kids have talents and they want to escape. And there's a sheriff. That looks fun. Okay, last one. It's the miniaturist. I studied some excerpts when I was in high school. I actually bought it very recently. I found it in the shop, the £5 shop in Brighton in March. An 18-year-old woman, she arrives at a grand house in Amsterdam to begin her new life as the wife of a wealthy merchant. The husband gives her a wedding gift. This is a cabinet-sized replica of their home, and it is furnished by an elusive miniaturist, and the things in the miniature home look true, uncanny. This is the last book I've read. I finished reading it last week, or this week. No, in the beginning of the week. It's The Girl on the Train. It's one of the recent books that I bought again. It's a very famous book, a bestseller apparently, and it was adapted into a movie. I've not watched the movie. I didn't have any expectations, but I thought from the subtitle that it would be, yeah, I don't know what I expected, but it's like the girl on the train, you don't know her, but she knows you. I thought that the girl on the train would be more of the criminal, if you know what I mean. She's special character for sure, but she's not, yeah, you'll see. I had different expectations. I thought that the revelation was too easy, and why do I look like that? Okay. I thought that the final reveal was too easy, and yeah, the women in it are, okay, they are more realistic and closer to real women and what we really do as women, and not what we really think, but they were really assholes sometimes, and they thought really weird things and really toxic things. I didn't really like the characters, and even the main character, I did not like her. She has had a difficult past for sure, but that does not, in my opinion, that does not allow her to act like a prick and to fall into alcoholism. That's not a spoiler, that's something that you very quickly learn about her. She's an alcoholic and she's a prick at the same time, and she is very egocentric. The female characters in that book are very egocentric. Eccentric is perfectly fine. They are too egocentric. Being egocentric is fine because you have to prioritize yourself, of course, but egocentric there in a toxic way. However, the narrative style was quite fun. It reminded me of Dracula style, in which you navigate between different narrators from chapter to chapter. I'm gonna sell that book or give it to someone, or I don't know. Okay, so as you could see, I have many books to read. I don't know which to start with. If you have any idea and any recommendations for me, please let me know in the comments. So that's it for today's video. I hope that you've gotten some recommendations and some inspo for possible future book purchases. Again, let me know if you have any other recommendations other than my books, the ones I have already, but if you see more or less the genre that I prefer the most, the genres that I prefer the most, that is dystopian books, gothic ones, and the rest was a sort of mixture of different genres. But if you have any recommendations, oh yeah, and mythological ones, fictions or non-fictions, please let me know. I'll see you in a bit. I wish you a great day, a great night, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.